Hey guys, welcome back to the Investor Army podcast. Now today's guest, he probably doesn't know it, but I've been a fan of his for quite a while now. I met him about 2 years ago, and he is impressive. So every now and then, we meet one of those individuals that just seems to be doing everything, right? So this individual wholesales houses, he flips houses, high-end houses. He's now getting into development. He runs a consulting and training program. He's a realtor. He's doing quite a bit of things in the business right now. So I'm excited to introduce you to Ian Flannigan.
Hey Connor, how's it going, man?
What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, you just phone doesn't stop ringing, and trying to nail down some times for us to get together is pretty tough. So hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, I see your YouTube studio back there. I know you're doing a lot of big stuff on YouTube. So guys, go check out his Freedom. What is it? The Freedom Investing Academy.
Yeah, Freedom Investing Academy. I have a YouTube channel, and I post a ton of free content on there. So if you're looking to get into the business and you really want to scratch in to find out how investors really do deals, I feel like I got a kind of a no-nonsense approach and kind of really give some golden nuggets in there. A lot of the things that I've experienced, and I know you've experienced the same thing. We're having a conversation the other day about all the crazy deals and the way the real estate market has just gone upside down, and it is what it is.
Yeah, guys, so go over and check out his channel because there's a lot of YouTube channels out there. They don't give out anything. They're boring. He gives out some really good stuff on there. And we didn't point out in the intro that he is a big-time owner finance investor, guys. He's doing a lot of creative things, structuring these transactions in ways that not many people are doing right now. And I know he's got a program out there. What's your program called? Seller financing?
We call it Hidden Cash Flow Fortunes because I feel like a lot of people just aren't educated on how to put owner finance deals together. So it's kind of like a hidden gem there. And once you figure it out, I've gone on and trained some folks that have literally gone on and built a massive business with owner financing. And owner financing is super hot in the market, especially in our Metroplex, and I know across the country as well.
Yeah, guys, there's so many different ways to do owner financing, so I think you're really going to be interested in kind of the ways that he approaches it because he's doing it in a little bit different way, and he's kind of reversing into it. So you want to tell people a little bit about some of the strategies you're doing with owner financing that's a little bit different take than what most people would traditionally see in the owner financing world?
Yeah. Well, let me kind of break it down of how you get into owner financing. I'll talk about the tenant buyers. That's the easy part. It's the front end of the deal that is really the most difficult. So you have multiple ways that you can structure to get yourself positioned to sell a house with owner financing. So it's all contingent on how you acquire the property, right? So you can do a seller carryback where that's where the seller finances you. That's how I started, and you can market to free and clear leads, people that don't have mortgages on their houses, that want a little bit of cash up front, but they like the monthly income, and that's one of my marketing strategies. Whenever I blast direct mail to people that own their houses free and clear, I'll target them that I know they're a little older, so the demographic is age 60 and older. They've owned a house for longer than 25 years, so I know that there's no mortgage on the property. And I basically send them a mailer that says, hey, turn your equity into monthly income. And that's very attractive to a lot of folks. So doing a seller carryback with the seller is one of the first strategies that you don't have to go raise any capital. If you can negotiate that with the seller, then you can get them to finance your purchase. So that's one way. The second way is to take over their debt subject to. So people that are behind on payments, people that are they're going into foreclosure. Now that's a whole nother monster all in itself. And Connor, you know this, dealing with pre-foreclosure leads is very emotional. And you're typically working on a really short time frame because most of the time the sellers are behind on payments 8, 10, 12 months. They owe 25, 30 grand. Their house is going to the chopping block, which is the foreclosure auction on Tuesday, and they call you on a Friday.
Yeah.
Right? So there's not much time to get agreement signed, get a hold of the bank, get the bank to agree to accept, maybe a portion of the payments that are owed, or there's a lot of different ways that you can recast the loan. Every lender has a different way. But the whole point is taking over the debt subject to. That's another powerful strategy. So we're still talking about acquisitions. So you got seller carrybacks, free and clear houses, and then you have subject to. And then another way is just to straight raise private capital. That's my favorite way to do it because when you have some private lenders that understand the business, they understand that they're investing in deed of trust, which is basically the collateral between the money and the houses. And that's how I was able to really explode the model, was bringing in private investors. I'll pay up to 8-10% on for private capital. It just depends. Every private investor is going to have a different target yield that they want, but that's the most powerful. Finding people that have IRA money, 401k cash that you can convert into self-directed Roth IRAs, or just individuals that are wealthy that are looking to place their capital. And trust me, and Connor, you know this, the problem isn't money, it's the deals, especially right now in today's market. So if you can provide a good deal to private investors to give them a good secured return on their capital, then you can really scale that up. So private capital is by far the most powerful because there's really no cap on how many deals you can do. If you have an investor that's got $1, $5, $10, $20 million, then literally you can go out there and buy houses cash. Obviously, it's not necessarily cash, you're still financing them, but when you're making cash offers, it's not contingent on you getting approved for financing. So private capital is the best way. Buy a house cash, pay the seller off, get them their money, let them move on down the road, and then you have a note with a private investor. Now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to sell that house with owner financing to a tenant buyer, somebody looking to make a down payment and live in the house. Right? Doesn't everybody, Connor, everybody understands making payments on the things that they want? Cars, houses, clothes, furniture, appliances. Right? We're a payment culture, right?
Finance world.
Yeah. So it's it's just the arbitrage in between it. What's the spread that I can get? So another strategy is when you have that seller carryback subject to or private capital is you can pay more for houses because I'm focusing on the spread. I'm not focusing on the equity. Obviously, you need a discount, but I know that I can mark the property up and have a higher interest rate with my tenant buyer and create some nice cash flow, $200, $300, $400, $500 of net cash flow, because I put the taxes and insurance off on the buyer. So I'm not paying that. So that's not cutting into what my net cash flow is. So I like to arbitrage the interest rates. If I'm borrowing at 6, I'm going to sell it at 9. Or if I get, which I've done quite a bit, is basically the balance in payments, which I just take what I owe the seller, divide it by 150 months or 240 months, and just make them a principal payment on the capital that I owe them. And that's no interest on the front end, and then I get 9% on the back end. So I focus on the spread. So what are some of the things? I mean, we had a conversation about that. So what are some of the ways that you've kind of come up with some ways to finance your deals and get an owner, either owner to carry or to owner finance a buyer?
Yeah, I mean, we come at them with, a handful of offers, a combination of different, we start out with obviously 0% interest. We want to go in and people think, you can't get that. We can. It's easier to get them on a lower end property. It's easier to get owner financing, I feel, on price points. What do you think? Under $75,000. Then we work in a combination of different, starting with lower interest rates, and then a combination of some with balloon offers, balloon payments at the back end. But I don't know. Are you keeping the notes all the way through, or are you trying to sell them off? Or because what we do is we create the note and sell the note. Sometimes I create 2 notes and keep the back end partial note.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a combination of both. So the keepers are obviously the ones that I have good long-term terms on the front end. If I can get some good long-term capital structure on the front end, then I'm going to hold that note. But if I have to cash out that, either private lender or seller, whatever the case is, if I have a tight time frame on the front end, whether it be a 2, 4, 5, 10-year balloon. So the front end is always contingent on the back end. Also, my cash needs as well. So that's the great thing about notes is you can be super, super creative. Just like you said, maybe do an 80-20 on the back end, sell a partial, cash it out. There's a lot of different ways. Another thing that we were doing is we were taking notes and pledging them to pledging the notes as collateral to refinance out the debt on the front end. So that was a strategy that we did quite a bit. Obviously, you want to try to hold the note as long as possible because you get all that interest income over time, plus the value of the note goes up over time. I've sold a lot of notes the day I've originated them to cash out the money that I borrowed. But, as the market shifted and changed, I was getting 80% for the unpaid principal balance the day that I would create it. But now, the way the market is, I'm having to sell them for 70%, and selling a note for 70% of the unpaid principal balance is a huge. It just chops you off. So it just depends. I mean, it really just depends. I sell some. I hold as many as I possibly can, and just kind of take that approach.
Yeah, so I think you kind of touched on what most people's issue is right now is, the front side capital. How do you keep it? How do you get that money to stay in long term? Because there's short-term money everywhere, right? So I have people just pounding down my door wanting to give me high interest rate short-term money, which is good for flipping houses. But how do you get that money that you can leave in 10, 15 years? And you point out earlier, IRAs is a good way because people, they don't need that money out, right? What are they going to do with it? So they're okay with leaving that money in a little bit longer. But that's why, guys, Ian's going direct to the seller. He's trying to take these houses subject to. He's trying to get owner financing directly with them because their financing's in place, and he's got longer-term capital they can leave in for the long-term cash flow. So he doesn't have to discount his note and get out of it. So, and also to touch on 0% interest, guys, when he's talking about, creating a spread in the numbers, if you get a house at 0% interest, you can literally buy a house for $100,000, $10,000 down, pay 0% interest, turn around and sell it that day at $100,000, $10,000 down at 10.25% interest, and over the next 30 years, you're going to make probably like $225, maybe even more $1,000 on that property just because of the interest spread. So there's so many things you can do with owner financing. He teaches all of them. Can you talk about the way that you structure deals as far as finding a homeowner or someone that wants to be a homeowner? They can't get bank qualifying, but they come to you with a big down payment. They say, we want a certain type of house, and then say they got $20,000 down. What would you do with that individual?
So I would vet them, make sure they have their cash liquid, and probably, we talked about this the other day, put their cash into an escrow account so I know that they have the capital. And then we have relationships with lenders that want to do long-term capital. So now we're talking about the tenant buyers for everybody listening. So now we're focusing on the people that we're actually going to sell the properties to and plug them in. And literally, when we run marketing, I literally just in the last 2 weeks got about 120 leads, and I see them trickling in every single day. And we call those leads, we pre-screen them, and then the folks that actually have big chunks of cash, we pull them to the front of the line. Yep. And then we say, hey, if our current inventory doesn't fit what you're looking for, what you can do is, once we vet them, you can go out into the marketplace for sell by owner or the MLS and find a property that you want that's in this price range. Because we're going to run the amortizations, and we're going to know exactly what they can afford, and then we're going to know exactly the target price point that we need to buy at to finance them. So we can back into it that way, and I've done that quite a bit, and I love those because we can double close them. So we're only on title for a day, and I'm not buying an insurance policy to insure it and carry it for 6 to 8 weeks to get a buyer in there. I'm not putting utilities on the property. So it's a lot easier, smoother process, but you really got to know what you're doing, and you really got to have your front end capital lined up to be able to go out there and run that type of model where we bring a buyer in, we let them go pick the house they want, we buy the house, and then on the same day we sell it to them and finance them and close them.
Yeah, so you can probably do that. So right now one of my students has a deal that's something just going kind of like that. So the individual buying it from clearly has the money to close. It's set out to like the 21st. And he doesn't understand why he's not closing, but I explained to him. So I talked to the individual, and what he's doing is he's got the house under contract. He's trying to find an owner finance buyer because he wants to do just what you said and line everything up at one time to close it all at one time. Yeah. So he doesn't have, because basically if he closes it now and he doesn't find a buyer for 2 weeks, he's got 2 weeks of carrying costs. He's got
to carry it. Yeah.
So he could close today, but he just don't want to. And why would he if he has till the 21st? So he's going to get that all lined up. So that's a great strategy, but what he pointed out is you need to get that guys. If you're going to do this strategy, you need to make sure that you have some way to control the situation, because real estate is about having control. And if someone comes to him with $20,000 and he goes out and does all this work and finds a house that they said they wanted, he buys this house with the only intention on selling this house back to them on payments, and then they change their mind, or they're like, oh, guess what? Yesterday I bought a different house. He's in a tough spot, so he's making him put that money up front. So he knows that, his time, energy, and money going out there and putting this transaction together is going to be, it's going to play out for him in the way he wants it to. So if you're in Dallas, guys, I'm sure if you come across somebody that's got a large down payment, go ahead and reach out to Ian, because he can probably connect you, and there's some way y'all can probably joint venture or do something like that. So I think that's a good strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else are you doing? So I know that you have some type of event coming up, your Flip to Freedom. Is that right? Or sometime here?
Yeah. It's actually in North Carolina. Gosh, it's either North Carolina or South Carolina. It's going to be coming up here. Let me look at my dates over there on the board. May 12th through the 14th in North Carolina. That's where we're going to do our 3-day event. It's Flip to Freedom, and we're just going to be specifically talking about wholesaling, controlling properties with wholesale contracts, assigning those contracts, double closing those contracts when you have big fat spreads in there, and then also lining up the capital, lining up the contractors, lining up the joint venture partners, whoever, on those, when you do find those big spread deals, to take those deals down, do those renovations, and sell them, because this is the perfect time of the market right now, which this, Connor, and we try to load up as many properties as we can in the springtime so we can have plenty of projects to sell during the spring and the mid and late summer, because once school starts and it dips, the buyer ferocity kind of cools down a little bit. Most of the activity is going on right now. So we're going to be talking about that in detail, talking about how to structure private capital, how to structure hard money, really show you how to run the numbers, because that's what it comes down to. If you don't know how to run numbers in real estate, then you're going to be on the sideline. And the neat thing about real estate is, hey, I'm not highly educated, right? I got a GED. I went to music school. I struggled to get past college algebra. I took it 4 times and finally got past it. If you put a high school algebra test in front of me today, I'd probably make a 20 on it. But let me tell you this. You put some real estate deals in front of me, I'll show you how to knock them out of the park. So to me, running numbers in real estate is actually really easy. It's, multiplication, division, but you just have to understand all the costs involved. And then also you got to understand how interest is amortized. I think the financing component is probably the biggest learning curve to understand. Most people don't understand that real estate is about financing, period. The house is just the vehicle. Everything is about financing. You got the front end, you got the back end. So it doesn't matter if you're wholesaling it or not. You have to understand how to run the numbers to wholesale. You have to understand what the returns are going to be to your target investors, the guys that are buying the properties from you. So that's the biggest golden nugget that I can give, is understand the financing and then the closing costs, the carrying costs, the taxes, the insurance, and all that. So it actually came very, very simple to me. So I do understand the frustration of learning a business. I mean, obviously, you and I have been in the business for quite a long time, and we've learned a lot. So we can kind of talk about this back and forth, and we understand the terminology. But so the folks listening out there, you really got to understand financing. Yeah, that's the biggest key golden nugget. But yeah, that's where we're doing the event. You can reach out to my office at 866-592-2429 extension 3 and get that information. And if you want to come out to the event, we'd love to have you. And me and my partner Zach Childress, Zach is an amazing educator. He's been one of my mentors. Now we're in business together, and he's just. He's out there. When he does his events, man, he's the real deal. He's invested all over the country over the last 15 years, and he's a true whale type of investor. He controls millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate, and he doesn't do deals if he's not making a minimum of a 40% cash on cash return. And there's people in my market that are happy with 12%. So, and you know that. The rates of return it's a lot harder to get those in these markets. So he virtually invests all over the country. But it's a no holds barred event. I mean, it is content the whole time. It's not one of those road and pony shows where we stand up in front of the room and talk about how great real estate is. It's a true content event.
That's awesome. Yeah. So guys, check that out for sure. But he kind of pointed out something really important there, guys. How important is financing in this business? And he kind of said, look, I didn't come from a finance background. A lot of y'all have self-limiting beliefs. You're like, well, I can't get in this business. I didn't go to college or whatever, guys. This is not that type of business. If you got put it this way, when I was in college, the one class that I had to retake a couple times was business finance. I didn't know what I was doing, and now that's what I do for a living. So the faster you learn this information and stop being scared of amortization calculators and that side of learning the business, you're going to have a lot more opportunities, because a lot of times everybody's a one-trick pony, right? They all go in and offer 50 cents on the dollar. But if you can come in and offer 110 cents on the dollar for a house because you know how to structure it, and you can get out of it in a different exit strategy. You're going to make a lot more money in this business, and you're going to lose a lot, or you're going to capture more leads that come through your office. Now, even though you're well known for all your owner financing, you're also doing a lot of other stuff. I know you're flipping high-end houses. I know you're now looking for land, and you're looking for big scrape opportunities in DFW. So, guys, if you're in DFW and you come across any of these high-end lots down there and like the University Park area, or really anywhere, go ahead and get a hold of Ian. Can you kind of tell him where you're headed with that? And I know you're looking into doing more development and stuff coming forward here in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being in the business for quite a long time. I mean, I just sold a flip. I mean, I still do a lot of renovations. So just because there's opportunities to make $40,000, $60,000, $80,000 on a deal. So when those opportunities present themselves, you want to be able to capture that. But
absolutely.
Just over time, doing $300,000 flips and then doing $700,000 flips. The higher end of the houses that you work with, just the more money you make.
Yes.
So my partner and I are actually in the process of potentially purchasing a luxury custom building company. They're out of Omaha, Nebraska. They build just absolutely beautiful houses. They have a very unique, interesting model. We really like it. We want to build higher end homes as well. I have a $800,000 short sale that I'm working on right now. It's off of Hillcrest and Forest, where it's a scrape. We're going to build probably a $2 million home. So yes, looking for dirt all across the DFW Metroplex. If you find something, or even if it's a development, I have a buyer that's actually backed by a billionaire, and they do, they'll buy 1,000 acres. They particularly like waterfront property, so any of the lakes around Texas. If you come across an off-market deal, that's the key here, off-market or bankrupt deal, something that's upside down. Myself, or I have connections of people that can literally take down any deal that you could possibly bring to us. But we're looking for dirt all over the Metroplex. To scrape and build, $1 million homes on.
Yeah.
So that's another model that I'm working on, and we're going to potentially be franchising a custom home building.
That's
company.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, like, guys, a lot of people that come on podcasts, a lot of people trying to come on YouTube and watch your videos and come on and listen to things like this. They're new in the business, and a lot of them have to start out as wholesalers. They're not financeable. They have bad credit. They have no money. And some of the best and biggest deals I've known done in the past couple of years were wholesaling land, big lots. Either getting a $1.2 million property and wholesaling it for $1.4 million, or getting a house down like Ian's looking for, a nice high-end area. So, guys, if the price per square foot is, what do you think? They need to be probably over $100 a square foot, because building costs are
building construction costs can go anywhere from $120 to $300 a foot, just depending on the geographic area, and then also what other price points are selling at. But yeah, you're so right, Connor. I mean, wholesaling a little $5,000 house for $8,000 and making $3,000 is the exact same as taking a $1 million lot and finding a buyer for $1.2.
Yep.
So that's the whole point, and you know this as well. We talked about this several months ago, where you had a potential $100,000 wholesale fee on a deal, and those do come across the plate. So you have to build those relationships, and building them with buyers like myself and you and all the people that we're connected to is the most important thing. And I'm not talking about just sending a friend request or sending an email to. Building a true relationship. So somebody asked me years ago, what was the turning point for me getting into the business? And Connor, you probably have a similar story. So when I first started learning the business over a decade ago, I met a guy down at the North Texas Real Estate Association. His name was Mark. He was a hard money lender. He was a rehabber, big time investor, and he just kind of flew under the radar. And he and I kind of hit it off. And I started going to his job sites. I started offering my time to him. Sometimes I'd bring his crew lunch, or I'd go run and grab some paint, or I'd go do something for him. And I started to leverage his credibility. So when I was talking to other people about the business, potential investors, just anybody else, I would leverage his credibility. But since I built a relationship with him, I was kind of a part of his team. And the very first time I made a $6,000 fee on a deal was I stumbled across a vacant house that some people were moving furniture into. That was a weird one, right? It was a beat-up, old vacant house, completely abandoned. Grandmother passed away. It had been sitting there vacant for a couple of years. So these people were moving furniture into it and using it as a storage. I stumbled upon the house. I looked at it, and I was just like, hey, are you looking to sell this? She was like, yeah, the probate's finalized. I mean, make me an offer on it. Yeah. So I was like, okay, great, let me get back to you. So I walked out to my car, sat in it, and I called Mark. I said, Mark, here's the address. What will you pay for this house? He goes, give me 5 minutes. So he jumped on the MLS. He called me back. I don't remember the exact numbers of the deal just because it was so long ago, but I do remember it was $6,000 what I made. So I went back up to the seller and I made her an offer $6,000 under what Mark was willing to pay for it. She said yes. I got real nervous. I drove to the first Kinko's, whatever. I printed out a purchase and sale agreement. I called Mark up. He helped me fill it out. I go back to the house. She signed it. I sent it to escrow, and then like 3 weeks later, he closed it, and I made $6,000. So that was my first experience. So that was the turning point for me. Was getting connected to other investors, leveraging their credibility, and building a true relationship with them, a real relationship, not just an email, type of thing that people are trying to do these days. Like I get, requests all the time, and I know that everybody has to start somewhere. So I'll reach out to them, and I just let them know, like, hey, give me a call sometimes, especially if they're in my market, because those are great bird dog opportunities, and that's how I started. I connected to a real player. I brought him a deal. That's the first time I made money. So got to build relationships, guys.
Yeah, and so he pointed out something really good, guys. So let's kind of look through the ways to learn the business. You start out for free ways, vlogs and blogs, like his YouTube channel, podcasts like this. Then you move into the home study courses. Then you got boot camps and seminars. Then you got the one-on-one mentor, right? And so how are you going to get a mentor? Someone who's been successful that can help you in situations that you're not going to know how to handle. There's only one of two ways. You either pay someone or you go trade your time, energy for their wisdom, knowledge, and the value, and it's a mutual exchange in abundance, right? And so what he basically said is he basically interned, right? He was an apprentice for another individual who he was trading his time for in exchange for teaching him the business. So if y'all don't have the money to go pay a mentor or go buy a program, that's really the only way you're going to get to do it, because it's expensive to go out there and learn and fail on your own. So sometimes it's better just to trade some of your time and go out there and look where he is now. So I did the same thing. I'm sure you had more than one. I actually had a number of mentors.
I've had multiple mentors that I've paid for over time.
Yes, So I don't know how much you put up, but most people I talk to, guys, have ended, and they don't do it all at once, right? They're continuously learning from when they start the process till the present moment, right? And so they'll be in masterminds, and I know a lot of people that put up $100,000, $150,000 for their education. They're in masterminds. They're, my closet's stacked full of home study courses. I buy every course.
So is mine. Yeah,
it's head high because there's not really this information out there. So when I was in school, if they had a class that said become a millionaire in real estate investing, I would have taken that instead of business finance, which I failed a couple times because I didn't want to be there, and so so I think our education systems is just complete crap, and nobody wants to be doing. I used to tell my teachers all the time, and even then stuff we learned in there I don't even use, right? All you really need to know is do the basic financing you're talking about, but I wish I could go back and had not gone to college, started at 18 in the business, and I actually ordered the Carlton Sheets program in when I was like 19, and my parents saw it on the credit card and made me send it back. So I should have been in real estate at 19.
Oh, wow.
And so then finally I got in like 10 years later. But guys, if you're coming across any of these opportunities, right, empty lots, do you partner with people as far as JV deals, or are you just looking to buy from people, or kind of let people know how they can work with you? And guys, if you're gonna contact Ian, be serious. Don't just be kind of like, if you're gonna do this business, you either do it or you don't. So if you have intentions of kind of getting in wishy-washy and working at it for a couple months and then quitting, you better save that money and just continue on doing what you're doing. So you need to get in with a mindset. I'm gonna get in. I'm gonna work every day until I become successful, and I'm never gonna give up. And if you do, you're gonna be successful. But I see a lot of people get in. They work for like a couple months and then they quit, and then it's just like, what was the point, But Ian's here in Dallas, and guys, there's a lot of opportunities to work with him. I know he's mentoring new students. A lot of them become successful. He can teach you owner financing, how to wholesale houses, how to flip houses, and I'm sure there's opportunities to partner with him as well. So let people know if you're willing to do that, or I don't know, some people are, some people aren't, but
yeah, I'm like I said, I like the opportunity of having other people bring me opportunities. That's how I got started, and that's how I continue. I mean, I'm looking for deals. My partners are looking for deals. Every player in the business is looking for more deals, and there's so many different models of real estate. But at the end of the day, it's about putting a deal together. So yeah, if you have, here's the key, off market, and you just can't send over leads. You have to vet these leads. You got to pre-screen them. You have to find out the level of motivation. Then you're going to have to do some research on your own. You can't just say, oh, I talked to somebody, here's the lead. Like, no, you got to bring it to me like, hey, here's what the value is of this. This is how I came up with this number. This thing is like $300,000 under market value. The seller's motivated. Now we're getting somewhere, right? There has to be some type of motivation. There has to be an opportunity. If you come across something like that, reach out to my office, customer support, 866-592-2429, extension 3, or reach out to Connor. I know he has ways that everybody listening can bring him deals. Hey, me and Connor could potentially joint venture on them, and we all have value that we can bring to the table. So yeah, I mean, we're looking for deals.
Yeah, guys. So Ian's a busy guy. So what he said is he wants you to do a little bit more work. He's not just going to pay you for, like, literally, let me see if I can, I don't know if I want to put the person on blast, but I literally just got a text message. Someone sends me a lead, and it wasn't even a lead. It's just, here's a number, call this guy, right? So they basically want to get paid for me to do all the work. And I'm not even going to call the number, to be honest, because the odds are it's probably listed on the MLS, and it's probably, so guys, you need to vet these leads a little bit more. Especially, and a big thing I'm seeing a lot, I don't know if you're seeing this, is wholesalers, people are teaching some wholesalers around the country, don't put the address on the property, right? And I think this is a huge mistake because they're scared that, someone's going to steal their property. But if you have it under contract, you're not going to lose that deal unless you don't sell that deal and someone else goes picks it up. But when they're coming through my email box, which I buy houses from wholesalers from time to time, I'm not going to take that time to go through that back and forth, email you send me back the address, and then I go to side and run numbers. I need to be able to pull up that house quickly and look at it and try to figure out, is this something I need to put any more time in? So, Ian, you probably get 20, 30 properties through your email box a day, or maybe even more, depending on how many.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have one email address that's dedicated for just specifically wholesalers. And over the years, I've accumulated a lot of them. And then, you know who the players are in the market here, and those are steady, constantly, coming out. But actually, one of the houses that I looked at yesterday was from a wholesaler, but he's an investor himself, and typically whenever he's going to send out a property, I know he's overloaded on houses. He probably has 3 or 4 rehabs, probably has $1 million cash tied up in these properties, and through his marketing efforts, he'll wholesale houses out. So I called his office yesterday morning. We went and looked at it. The deal was a little tight for us. So I made one phone call to another investor. He's looking at it today. I called back their office. So I'll probably do a matchmaker on this deal. And literally just an hour or 2 of my time, a couple phone calls, I'll probably make $3,000 to $5,000, and I'll get paid out of escrow, and I call that my matchmaker. So I documented exactly the story that I told you guys earlier about how I made my first $6,000 with Mark. So I documented that whole process. I created scripts on how to talk to people, what to say. And it's a program that I call the Quick Cash Matchmaker, and it's basically wholesaling properties to cash buyers that other people already have for sale. And I did it over a decade ago. I still do it today. But one more tip, you mentioned about the MLS, and listen, guys, the MLS is amazing for selling houses. It's a great source to sell your properties. A lot of investors now, they're picking them up. And they're just doing a prehab on them. They're just cleaning them up, and they're putting them on the market, and they're letting investors from all around the world bid the property up. So especially here in Dallas, and I don't see the market cooling off here for another decade, just because Warren Buffett put $1 billion facility. Nebraska Furniture Mart, it's the largest furniture store in the United States. Jerry Jones is building another $1 billion development north of Frisco. So the job market here is continuing to grow and grow and grow. Hence the reason why we're shifting our business into custom home building and high-end luxury renovations.
Yeah.
So the market's abundant, and you have to get educated. You have to get out there. You got to put yourself out there. You're going to make some mistakes. That's just the way it goes. But you got to learn from those and recover quickly. And admit you don't know everything. Hey, I don't know everything. I'm a student of real estate. I didn't coin this phrase myself, but real estate is a lifelong education. Yeah. And if you're not constantly learning and put your fingers and have a pulse on the market, then you're going to be kind of a hobbyist of real estate and dreaming of investing and flipping and all that stuff. So you really got to put yourself out there and commit to it, just like you said, Connor.
Yeah, that's some really good information, guys. And so what he mentioned there, pre-habbing, that's if you're in a hot market. Now, around the country, Dallas is real hot. Most markets around the country are hot. Some aren't as on fire as others, but pre-habbing is the new big thing, right? We're doing that quite a bit. I just had Ashley Cash on our show that you're friends with. That's what they're doing.
Ashley, I'm actually going to see her today.
Literally yesterday when I had to get off the phone with you or whenever it was because she was coming on the show. She's coming out. So she's absolutely awesome. She's doing a lot of similar stuff to you. Guys, pre-habbing is a great way to do it. Even after you buy it and list it, pay those closing costs. We're flat listing them. Pay the 3%. You're still, because there's so many buyers on there. The MLS is the world's biggest buyers list, and you're making more, to put it on there than you would just to sell to your buyers list. Now, he pointed out his quick cash matchmaker. We'll go ahead and put a link on here for you and put it on our website too. But what he's basically talking about, guys, as you know, if you look at our YouTube channel and you see a lot of that, he's talking about joint venture wholesaling, co-wholesaling, double assignments, right? And this is how I got into the business. My very first 2 deals that I ever did were JV wholesale deals. And so if you have a buyer's list and you work on building your buyer's list, which there's a lot of free ways to do it, you don't even have to have money to market to find deals. You can go out there and find someone who has a house that needs to sell it, that can't sell it, because most people that get into the business spend all their time trying to find sellers because they think that's where the money's at. And then they get a house under contract that they work forever to get. And then they realize, oh crap, there's a second part of this business. I have to sell the house too, right? So you have to buy it and you have to sell it. So guys, if you get stuck with a deal, you're going to have to bring it to Ian or bring it to myself. One of us is going to sell that deal for you. But just think about that when you're looking at wholesaling, because what would you say? Some people, and I'm hearing one way more than another, we'll see what you have to say. What do you think is more important, building your buyer's list or finding deals?
They're both equally as important, but when you're first starting out, buyers, because they have cash. And listen, when you have somebody in your back pocket that you can make a phone call to that has liquid cash, now you have liquid cash.
Yeah.
So building that buyer's list, but more important, building the relationship, right? It's the relationship that's really, really important, because, guys like myself and even Ashley have the cash. I mean, we can literally take the deals down, but the numbers have to make sense.
Yep.
So we're not going to overpay. And before I did that deal with Mark, the very first 2 properties that I got under contract were MLS deals. I agreed to pay too much, so that was lesson learned. And then number 2, I didn't really understand how to write the contract, so I lost $1,300 on my earnest money deposit because I didn't know how to protect it in escrow. I licked my wounds from that, but here's we say this at our 3-day events, like one way or the other, you're going to pay for your education. So if you're trying to wing it and figure it out on your own, you're going to lose some money, and that's going to be a lesson. One of my mentors lost $100,000 on his first rehab deal just because he was uneducated and he got taken advantage of. But most people would just implode and stop. But he was just like, "Look, I'm going to make this happen," and he's out there, literally making over 7 figures a year in pure profit. So. The opportunity's out there. You just have to really buckle down, make it happen, get educated, get connected to the right people. So building the buyer's list, because those people have cash. And then you learn how to market, you learn how to talk to people. And I like saying this, like if you're new to the business, you need to just call the for rent ads and the for sale by owners and have a conversation with them, because that's a free lead. And if you have that pit in your stomach, like I remember the very first time I made an offer to some guy, I had such a pit in my stomach I was so nervous about making him an offer. And a lot of people get really nervous about calling people. So we do this at our 3-day events. At the end of day 1, we give people specific action steps. Go to Craigslist, place this ad. Call this for rent ad, say this. Call a for sale owner by owner, say this. And then the next morning we have deal review.
Yeah.
So the next morning we have people saying, "Oh, I found a guy that's got 15 properties. Oh, I have somebody that's willing to lease option their house." And we're just like, "Look, guys, if you just do what we're telling you to do, which most people that are beginning out, they don't pick up the phone and call people. So you have to be able to talk to folks, and then practicing on the for rent ads and the for sale by owners, just the properties that are on the market. It gives you the confidence because, listen, when you're paying for leads, you need to convert those leads. And you know this, Connor. When somebody calls me from my advertising through pay-per-click or direct mail or whatever the lead source whatever the advertising we did to get them to call us, those are gold leads, right? Those are people that are highly motivated. And if you don't know what to say or what to do, then you're going to lose that lead because they're going to call someone else that's going to give them the confidence. So when I get on the phone with people now, I take the time and I'll give you a brief little thought process of how I call it the psychology of the negotiation. So the first thing that I do, I don't even try to talk about the house. I try to probe them. I try to build some rapport with them. I try to find out what's going on, what their timeline is. If there's a situation in their family that someone passed away, I try to empathize with them. So I build rapport, I empathize with them, and then I shift them over to educating them. So I'm educating them on the process of selling their house because I want them to feel comfortable with me by the time I put an offer in front of them. So I educate them as if we're going through the deal together. And then once I build that rapport and I educate them, then I start asking them the questions about the house. Like, okay, so if we have this house in escrow, how many, are there any liens on the property? Are the taxes current? Then I get into the numbers, right? So when I ask them what their payoff is, it's not a knee-jerk reaction like, well, why do you want to know that? It's because I'm also trying to help them out, right? I'm trying to provide a solution. And at the end of the day, at the end of that conversation, all they care about is what their net number at closing is. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be hard to bring somebody through that process to find out what their net number is. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's the psychology of it. So it's important. It really is. And I had to pay a mentor to get educated on how to do that. And then once I started implementing that in my business, I started converting more leads.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it one way or the other. And, I got taken advantage. I lost $30,000 the guy stole from me. I was scared of contracts, so I didn't want to learn them until I lost money because I didn't know my contracts a few times. So you're going to pay for it one way or the other. So either go find a mentor that's going to teach you or go out and kind of get beat up on your own. So I gave you a lot of good information, guys. Go ahead and check out his Freedom Investing Academy YouTube channel. He just put a video out that I watched the other day, which is a good video. I do something similar on your Craigslist strategy, right, for owner finance. And one of the big mistakes, so go check that out, guys, and make sure you subscribe to this channel and like it. And one of the big mistakes I see new investors make is what I did when I started. I went and spent all this money and all this time and energy marketing for deals, but I had never talked to a seller on the phone, right? And so as the calls came in, just like you said, I was nervous. So I literally spent like 10 grand on marketing, but I didn't know how to monetize the lead. So do exactly what he just told you. Go out there and call some for sale by owners. And do it with the mindset you have no intention on actually getting the deal, right? This is just a practice routine that you're doing to get used to being comfortable on the phone with the seller and seeing how the process goes. And then if you get a deal, you're going for the deal, but if you get a deal, just think of it like, hey, a bonus, right? So get used to being on the phone with them before you start putting a bunch of money out marketing, because what happens if your phone starts ringing and you don't know how to monetize that lead? The other thing is, guys, the biggest mistake I see, pick up your phone. You just paid hundreds of dollars to make it ring. And if you can't pick it up, call them back, right?
Yeah.
And so, guys, check him out on Freedom Investing Academy on his YouTube channel. Go check out his Flip to Freedom event. He's got the Quick Cash Matchmaker. We'll let you, we'll figure out a way to get some links out there for you for that. We'll put his contact information. Guys, Ian, I appreciate you coming on. I'll continue to follow you. Big fan of yours. And do you have anything else you want to leave off? Give some advice?
No.
One last bit of advice?
Connor, thanks again, man. I appreciate your time. And, for anybody that's looking to get into business, just take action. You just got to get out there and make it happen. Just believe it, know it, that it can happen, and real estate can happen for anybody. I wasn't highly educated, and I've talked to guys that are highly educated, and they don't know what I know. It's a very, very specific niche of understanding creative real estate investing. So you just have to get out there. You're going to make some mistakes, but it can happen for anybody. You just have to believe it and never give up. So that's my thing. Just take action. Just like Lowe, take action. Just take some action. Get out there and make it happen.
That's some really good advice. It's always good to have that inspiration, keeping that positive mindset, guys. And I think a lot of y'all just need to have some realistic expectations to getting into business. Yes, he talked about individuals that are making 7 figures a year, and yes, we know a lot of them. It didn't happen overnight, and a lot of y'all are going to struggle for a good amount of time. You have to pay your dues. You have to work hard. You have to put the energy in, put the time, and take enough action. And so, kind of go in knowing you're not just going to be a millionaire tomorrow. And all these flipping shows and some of these guru companies going around are putting some false illusions in your mind. But if you do work hard and you stay consistent, this business does work for anybody. And I know a lot of people whose lives have been changed by it. Ian, thanks again for coming on, and I'll see you soon.
You got it, bud. Take care.
All right, thanks, Ian.